Kevin McHale. It was certainly basketball's good fortune when you grew too big to become an effective hockey goaltender. You loved your native state of Minnesota. You became the best high school and the best college player ever in your beloved state, and then went on to an outstanding career, as we've just seen, in 13 professional seasons with the Boston Celtics. Your low post game moves are a primer for young players worldwide. You were named one of the greatest players in NBA history with the top 50, and now tonight, deservedly, you receive basketball's highest honor. Kevin, by virtue of the Honors Committee and by the power vested in the Board of Trustees, it is a singular honor for me to enshrine you as a player into the Naismith Memorial Basketball Hall of Fame with all its rights and privileges. Kevin is joined by his longtime friend and high school coach from Hibbing, Minnesota, Gary Addington, and he's welcomed to the Hall of Fame by Red Auerbach.
There's the first turnover, yeah, there's the first turnover. Got hands like the Kenby. What am I doing up here? Well, I tell you what, I'm going to keep this short because of two reasons. One, Matt Winnick falls asleep every time they go to video. Man, Matt Winnick is sleeping over there. Wake up. And Rod hit him on the back of his head when he falls asleep. And the second thing is Bill Walton went for 28 minutes, and that is the record. And I'm not going to break Bill's record. He's still got the record for the longest doggone speech I ever listened to. But, you know, I have so many people to thank, and it's the first time I've made notes since college, so I actually usually just get up here and say whatever. But I have so many people to thank, and I'd like to start off by thanking Red Auerbach. Like a lot of people here, Red is just such a, has such a big influence. Not, you know, not only on me, but on so many players. And you know, I thought about, geez, when you play for the Celtics for 13 years and people say, who's going to enshrine you to the Hall of Fame? I mean, there's a long list of guys. You can start off, you know, with Russell and Casey Jones, Sam Jones, Havlicek. You know, you go down the list all the way to Larry Bird and everybody that's in between, Collins, Havlicek. I mean, you can go down the whole list, and JoJo White. But there's one guy that was there for everything, and that was Red Auerbach. And I tell you what, his fingerprints are on 16 championships. And we had talked about it, Wayne and I talked about it. Red had the unbelievable ability to come to you at times and always say an encouraging word and always make what you did feel very special. And I remember he used to always tell me, I don't know, he was just pulling my leg because he wanted to get me for less money and everything else. But he would tell me coming off the bench is a good thing, you know. And he was right. It was a good thing. And I'll tell you a quick story about Red. You know, I was having problems. You know, I got drafted by the Celtics, and I was overseas. And you know, my agent says, you know, we might play in Italy this year. I said, look, man, let me tell you something. My chances are play in Italy or go play for the Boston Celtics. Whatever they're paying me, I'm taking. Let's just go. So I just flew back, and I got there, and Red said, got in the office, and I flew all day from Italy back to Boston. And Red says, come on, sign the contract. Practice starts right now. I didn't even know what I signed. I just signed my name, gave it to him, and said, hell, I'm here. I jump in the car, and Red's driving over from Boston Garden to Hellenic College down Jamaica Way. And for you people that know Boston, now Red was weaned in New York, drives in Washington and Boston, so man, that guy can drive. He's talking to me, got the cigar going. I'm scared to death. I'm from Hibbing, Minnesota, man. I've never seen anybody drive like that. He's going in and out. I thought I was going to die. I was thinking, oh, my God, my first day I'm dead, you know? And we get to practice, and we get there to practice, and he goes, got to get physical, get a quick physical. I had to have a physical before you could play. So I run in there, and Dr. Silva, our team doctor, he's got the stethoscope on. He's looking like he's all ready to give me the physical, and Dr. Red comes running and says, make it quick. So he says, Dr. Silva looks at me and says, been playing a lot? I said, yeah. He said, well, take down your pants, turn your head, and cough. I did. He said, okay, go play. So I said, hey. So the two things I knew that day was if I ever did a bank heist, Red was going to be my wheel man, and I didn't have a hernia. So that was the start of my Celtic career. And the other guy I'd like to thank up here is my other presenter is Gary Addington. He was my high school coach, and the funny thing is Gary looks younger than me, and that really irritates me. They say, how could you have a high school coach that's younger than you are? I go like, man, the guy's older than me. Not by much, but he's older than me. He taught me a lot about basketball, a lot about fundamentals, and just a lot about playing the game. And I owe just such a debt of gratitude to Gary and his family and his beautiful wife, Carol, who's out there. And all the nights I used to hang out at Carol's house and make me cookies and cakes and everything else, it all paid off. I grew up a lot. And so thank you, the Addingtons. They're just great friends. I have another coach out there that got me started, Terry Mucci, a good friend of mine. He was a junior high coach, and I was playing hockey. That's no BS. And, and I'm not the smartest guy in the world, but I played hockey for a while, and it's cold in northern Minnesota in the winter. It's 30 below. First time I got in the gym, it's 70 degrees. We're running up and down. He's playing with us. He's about 29 years old. He's talking trash, and that's where I learned to talk trash from. He'd say, you can't guard this. Heck, I was only this tall. Of course I couldn't guard that. And he was killing me, and we would have so much fun. I got done, and I said, I'm never going to go outside and play hockey again. And so Terry Mucci, I have so much to thank you for, and just a great guy. And while I'm talking about coaches, I was fortunate enough to, my college coaches here, Jim Dutcher, a tremendous coach at the University of Minnesota, did a great job, kept pushing me, and like all young guys, sometimes you don't want to be pushed that hard, but you just kept pushing me, and he made me into a much better player, and thank you, Coach, and thank you for coming. My first coach in the league was Bill Fitch, and Bill Fitch tried to kill me, and he damn near did. And the only reason he didn't, because of K.C. Jones, my next coach, used to pull me inside and say, Rook, you're a hell of a player. He just doesn't know it yet. The coach, I say, yeah, that's my guy, Case. And I tell you what, one of the finest human beings you'd ever want to meet in your entire life, K.C. Jones, is really one of my, K.C. He is honestly one of my favorite people. I don't know in this world how they can get much better than K.C. Jones. And to play for K.C. was a privilege and an honor. And I tell you what, when you were down and you were out, K.C. always had an encouraging word to come up and tap you on the back and say, big horse, we go again tomorrow. We'll get him. And he was always just positive. And I think that's the reason that our careers were all cut short, because we all played when we were hurt for the guy. If he'd have been like the rest of them, I'd have sat down like I should have been. And but we all played hurt for Case, because you know what? When K.C. Jones asked you to make that play and go out there and put your heart and soul on the line, it was easy to do because he's such a great person. So thank you, Casey, for everything. And Jimmy Rogers was coaching me, and then it went full circle. The guy who was the most irreverent of us all, Chris Ford, ended up being my last coach. He was a teammate of mine when we started off, and he complained about Bill Fisher more than anybody in the thing. Then he's coaching me, saying, Kevin, all that stuff I did, you got to forget that. Like, I'd be like, oh, man. But I tried to forget the best I could. And Dave Gavitt was there towards the end of my career running the Celtics. And I tell you what, that's another one of the finest human beings, Dave Gavitt. I was kind of a broken-down old horse at that time and didn't have too much more to give. But I tried, and a lot of times it wasn't very pretty. And Dave always came out and put his arm around me after every game and said, hey, big fella, I really appreciate your effort. And Dave, you don't know what that means. It was, it's a tough time when you're old and you're going downhill and you know it, but you're still out there fighting, and you're still out there thinking, maybe I can help this team win games. And you're giving everything you got, and it ain't working. That's a bad deal. And Patrick, get healthy before you come back. And... But the encouraging words that I got, not only from Dave but from Red, and just appreciating the effort, just made me feel so good. I got our trainer was here, Eddie Lessert, and Eddie tried patching me up more times. Man, I know Eddie's here somewhere, and Eddie put more patches on me than most people need to, and he fought hard. And our team doctor, Arnie Scheller, who, you know what, they not only gave me health care, they cared about me. And that meant a lot, because they really did care how I was doing and how I was playing, and it really affected them also. And they were just great to work with. And I appreciate all the help from Eddie, you, and Arnie. You guys were great. I've said before that I really believe that I'm here in the Hall of Fame because of the guys I played with. I really do. I mean, it's a team game. One thing in that thing, you never saw me dribble the ball up the floor. If it was up to me, the ball would never get over half court. So I knew I had to have guards, and I knew I had to have people to play with, and I had such great teammates. They pushed me, and they made me into the player that I was, and they pushed me every step of the way. And it's funny because I look out here now and I see Bill Walton, and I remember when I was a kid. Shows you how old Bill is. When I was a kid, I had his picture on my wall. Like I'd go to bed. I'd go to bed and I'd look at Bill Walton, but that was before he lost his mind. Then next time I saw him, he had long hair and a headband. I said, man, what happened to John Wooden's Bill Walton? And then he's come full circle. Now he's a Republican. Look at him over there. So it's funny because teammates have a big influence on you, and there are guys, like I say, I told this story earlier. Today, Tiny Archibald, I saw Tiny on the tape there, and boy, it's just good to see him. He was my first point guard in the NBA. Tiny came down on a break one time. He comes down, and he throws me the ball. I'm about the free throw line extended, and I see a guy cutting down the lane. I throw a bounce pass right into third row, and he runs by me and says, "Look, Rook, when I throw you the ball, you shoot it." So Tiny, wherever you are, you started a monster, man. That was my last pass I tried. But I figured if Tiny told me, hey, as I called those guys, when I got there was Tiny Archibald, there was Dave Collins, there was Pete Maravich. Man, I mean, I went to practice, and I called my friends at home and said, you wouldn't believe who I'm playing with. I mean, this is unbelievable. And I said, you should check out this Bird dude. Oh, man, I said, he's not bad. I was lucky enough to go in there with Robert, and I always tell a story about Robert. My first practice, I got there late. Red Danner killed me getting over the arena. And we go up, and we're stretching, and Chief's against the wall, and he's stretching, and I said, hey, I'm Robert. Hi, Robert, I'm Kevin. And he says, how you doing? And I said, how you doing, Robert? And he says, I'm not going to make it. He's got a deep voice. I look at him, and I'm like, ooh, wait, what? No, I'm not going to make it. This man's trying to kill us. He said, wait till you see this practice. We're going up and down, and I'm looking at him, I'm thinking, man, this dude's right. I might not make it. And then I told him, I said, 19 years later, he was still making it. I mean, hell, he was 40 years old, and he's still playing. So to be able to play with a guy like that, to be able to play with a guy like Robert and a guy like Larry, together, we were all three different players and all three different people, thank God. I think three of any one of us would have been too much. But together, we all combined just effortlessly to play basketball. And that's the thing I remember, and that's why I credit my teammates so much. It was so effortless when you play the game and play the game properly. There is no effort. It's not a hard game to play. It's a game of beauty. It's a game of movement. It's a game of people reading each other. And that's the way we played, and that was fun. And playing with those guys, yes, thank you. Playing with those guys was never an effort. And, another guy I'd like to thank is Cedric Maxwell, my old man Cornbread. Max, I came off the bench, and there's a good Maxwell story. We're playing down in Philadelphia. I might go past your time limit, Bill. I'm not sure. We're playing in Philadelphia. We're playing at the Spectrum, and I'm coming off the bench. And now Dr. J has about 17 points with 6 minutes gone in the first quarter. Max picks up his third foul. He just grabs him. I can see this starting already. So Max gets his third foul, and I go up to the scorer's table. I check in, and Max comes by me and says, good luck, man. He's hot. And so I go, oh, man. So he proceeds at about 28 at half, and I'm going in the locker room, and I'm a rookie. It's my first trip to Philadelphia Spectrum, and I'm thinking, I pull Max aside, and I said, Max, what should I do? He said, get a fire hose. That's about your only chance. Spray him down. He said, he went for 45 on us. I looked at Max and said, I was looking for more than that. The fire hose, I said. So that was my guy, Max. But I tell you what, we had a lot of fun together. And he was supportive because as you come off the bench, you're always taking somebody out. And normally it was Max. And he was always there with a pat on the rump saying, hey, big fella, go out there and get to work. And, that was great to play with guys like that. And so, my teammates have made made me into the player that I was. And like I say, Larry drove everybody. There's been players out there who have, I think, make their teammates rise to levels maybe you don't even know you can get to. And I know that John and Wayne both played with Bill Russell. and Bill had that ability to take you and say, hey, we're going to win. And Larry had the same ability. Larry had that ability to say, hey, fellas, I don't know how, I don't know where, but I know why. We're going to win tonight. And we went out and got the job done. And that, playing with a guy like that made me a much better player. And hopefully somewhere along the line, we all made each other better. And that's what it is about in a team game. I know there's some of the people that worked in the Celtics office are here. We had fun when we played back there. We had fun doing everything. I had fun walking down the street. At least I try to. A lot of guys that were worked in the office used to come out and hang out with us after games, and Todd and Steve and Mark, and I know you guys are here somewhere. Those guys were just fun to work with. They were the ticket guys and they were the promotional guys, but they were Celtics true and true. And Red will tell you, those guys lived and died. When we won, they were more excited than we were. They come running and jump on you, be like, hey man, he's back. They really got into it, and it was a great time to play basketball with the Celtics at that time. As a kid growing up in northern Minnesota, I was really fortunate. I was fortunate to have a mother and father who really cared about me, and my mom's here, Josephine, she's out there. And my father passed away soon after I returned back to Minnesota, but he'd have been very proud tonight. My dad was a man who, thank you. And my dad he just worked hard. He worked in the mines, worked for U.S. Steel for 42 years, and he just worked hard, and he worked hard to take care of his family. And he didn't work hard for people to come up to him and say, hey, you did a good job, pat him on the back. He worked hard for us, and he was about as good as dad as anybody could ever have. He was a special man, and Dad. And my older brother, John, he's 16 months older than me, and he's over there, and he used to beat the hell out of me. And so, all I wanted to do was hang around with him, so I'd be on my bike traveling behind him, And then he would just ditch me, and they'd beat me up. He and his friends were a couple years older than me. And the next day, I'd be riding my bike, and they'd beat me up again. And one thing I learned how to be was persistent. And but hanging out with John and just trying to catch up and keep up with him and his friends really made me competitive. And I think that's I get a lot of my competitiveness. Plus my mother. My father was a pretty laid-back guy. Now my mom, on the other hand, man, she'd chase you around the house with that frying cord pan, the cord for the frying pan, man. She'd be on your case, and if she caught you, believe me, it hurt. So, and then maybe that's why I end up with good feet, running around that little house we had all the time. And then my sisters, Patty and Tricia, they're great, and having an older brother, do all the, I was fairly successful and did a lot of stuff. They always supported me, and it was great. And, my mom and dad came to a lot of games at the University of Minnesota. My dad used to have to work in the morning, and they'd drive down. It's about a 3.5-hour drive from Hibbing down, and my sisters would be up there alone, and my mom and dad would drive down, and then they'd drive back every night after games, and my dad would get home. My mom had to drive while Dad tried to get a little sleep, and he'd get home at 3:34 in the morning, then he'd go to work the next morning, and he'd be up bright and early, and he'd be at the job, and I know my sisters were up there cheering for me, and thank you for everything. I guess I got a lot of friends over here, too. I got some friends that made playing basketball a lot harder, because those guys used to meet me on the road, and boy, I tell you what, the next morning, they'll shoot around, you put your best game face on, act like you were all bright-eyed and bushy-tailed, but those guys over there, they went at it hard. Our games were a big event for those guys, and doggone, I told them, you guys are killing me. You're going to shorten my career. But those guys all came, and they're great. And I see one of the sweetest shooting players ever, Scotty Wedman over there. And Scotty was a guy that could knock it down. He used to put on some shooting exhibitions in practice that was just phenomenal. And I guess, to close this thing up, first of all, I'd like to thank everybody that came. A lot of people from Hibbing came. A lot of people went out of their way to come here. And it's it really means a lot to me to have you people here. It just makes this day so complete to be able to share it. If I stood up here and didn't have this award to share with anybody, I would feel terrible. But I have literally tons of people to share this with, and people that means a lot to me. And I've never really publicly, I guess I should have, really thanked my wife, Lynn. We've been married now for 17 years, and she put up with me for all 17 of them, and more than that, too. And, you know, she put up with the highs and lows and everything else in between. And thank you, Lenny, for everything, and thank you for being there all the time, and I love you. And I guess my biggest accomplishment in my life are those 5 kids. Come on up here, you 5 kids. Come here. You guys get up here. This is, come here. The little fella's Tommy, then his brother's Mikey, and then there's Joey, and Kristen's the older, and then Sasha's my 9-year-old. This right here, it means more to me than any championship rings, anything else in the world. These are my little fellas, girls and guys, and you know what? All I can say, is that I'd ask my wife to come up, but she wouldn't come up, then she'd get mad at me and the whole deal, so I'm just going to have her sit over there. Why'd you embarrass me like that? And so what I'd really like to say is just thank you so much. Thank you for the Hall, you know, for inducting me in the Hall of Fame. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to all my teammates, all my coaches, all the people that made this day so very special for me. And as you can see, I truly am blessed to have played 13 years with the Boston Celtics. To now I run a team. The only thing that scared me about running a team, did you see how dark Wayne's hair was when he started running that team? Man, I'm going gray here for sure, Wayne. There's no question about it. And to have these 5 children and have a beautiful wife and have friends that really, truly care, and to make it in the Hall of Fame, and to be enshrined a place 90 miles away from where I played, and to play for the best organization in the history of the NBA, led by Red Auerbach. What more can I say? I've truly been blessed. Thank you so very, very much.